We have all heard of some of these traditions at weddings, and they've become almost second nature in westernized weddings. But why do we do these traditions? What are their origins? Here are 5 wedding traditions that almost all of us do and their origins. Number 1, the wedding dress being white. Many of you may have heard that the reason why brides wear a white-colored gown is an age-old tradition contributed to the color reflecting purity. However, it can actually be attributed to Queen Victoria, who wore white to reflect her nobility and wealth status. In Victorian times, white fabric was costly and inefficient due to it being likely to only be worn once. Most lower and middle-class brides couldn't afford such practices. Over time, though, brides copied the Queen's practice to reflect a sense of high status. Number 2, the veil. The veil, on the other hand, has a much older tradition going back centuries. In some cultures, the purpose behind the veil was to hide the bride's face from vengeful spirits hoping to steal their beauty. However, in other cultures, such as Jewish biblical history, the purpose of the veil was a cunning trick from the fathers to either disguise a more homely bride and her appearance from her betrothed, or even the wrong bride, like the case in the story of Jacob, Leah, and Rachel. Number 3, the diamond engagement ring. The concept of the engagement ring is a much more recent idea than you may realize. Attributed to the famous A Diamond is Forever marketing campaign by the De Beers Corporation in 1947, the company held a monopoly on the diamond industry and wanted to push diamond sales. Combined with the relatively made-up idea of having to spend a set amount of months' worth of salary on the ring, it has become a staple of American wedding culture, all thanks to a marketing scheme. Number 4, the bouquet and garter toss. This is one that many single people either adore at weddings or despise, but did you realize that the history of this one is a tad steamy? Centuries ago in medieval times, when a bride and groom wed, they typically didn't have drawn-out receptions. They said their I do's and skipped right to the consummation part. The idea of the bouquet toss tended to be a matter of distracting guests with the scheme of showing good luck to the single ladies with the symbolic piece of the bride's attire. Similarly, the garter was an offering to the men so that they wouldn't attempt to rip part of her dress away for the aforementioned good luck. Last but definitely not least, the bridesmaids and groomsmen. We all hear of the creative ways that brides and grooms are picking their leading ladies and men for their big day, but back in the old days, the bridesmaids and groomsmen held a very different role. The purpose of the bridesmaids was to form a protective barrier around the bride from people attempting to harm or steal her. Also, they would dress them similarly to the bride as to trick evil spirits from, again, attempting to harm the bride. Now, the groomsmen's role was similar. Their job was to protect the bride from harm, but even possibly kidnap her for the nuptials if the bride's father or brother didn't approve. The term best man was far less about being honored by the groom and more who literally was the strongest in combat and swordplay, so he could hold true to his duty to the groom. Well, there were my 5 wedding tradition origin stories. Want to know more or want more DIY budgeting tips from me on your big day? Subscribe to Dogwood Dreamers. Also, comment below with your suggestions or thoughts for the next video. If selected, I'll credit you in my video. I've been Sarah Macatreo Ham, reminding you to take your dreams and make them blossom.